Hello Team FD and welcome back to Sunday Vibes. Joe Tomlinson having a rest today. Rumour has it he's hanging out of a snowman's face. So Doogie is joining us instead. Yes, that was a ginger joke. Apologies, Joe. Anyway, our first question is from Marvin R10 and he's asked which players will make a big move after their performances in the Champions League or Europa League. A bloody good question that, thanks for submitting it. Get your questions for next week in the comments below, guys. Doogie, you're kicking us off.
Yeah, I am. I'd just like to say before I begin that I'm really enjoying the Champions League this year. It's really been an exciting competition so far. I don't think anyone's looked particularly good. And I don't actually believe that there's only Barcelona are unbeaten now, I think. In the whole of the competition.
Bayern Munich went through the group unbeaten as well.
Oh, did they as well?
They drew
quite a
twice
few points.
and only just topped the group ahead of Ajax.
And both those clubs are pretty lucky, I'd say, to be
Exactly. So it seems like quite an open competition. There's been a few, notable performances from sort of lesser names or people that haven't really, established themselves in the Champions League before. And one of them that I wanted to bring up was Kramaric. He's the 27-year-old Hoffenheim striker who can actually play across the left and across the right as well. Very versatile. He's got 5 goals and 1 assist so far. I mean, I say so far, they've unfortunately dropped out now after losing to Man City last night. 5 goals, 1 assist, only topped by Lewandowski and Messi in the competition. Just looks really good. Very, nimble, creates good opportunities for himself. Quite a big lad, but moves, quite well for someone of over 6 foot height.
It was a shame that it didn't really work out for him at Leicester, wasn't it? And they effectively replaced him with Iheanacho, and it's not worked out for Iheanacho either. So it might be a problem
like
in Leicester's system. But where could you see Kramaric moving then, Doug? What sort of calibre of club do you think he deserves to be playing at after excelling at Hoffenheim?
Yeah, I don't know whether he's instantly ready for a top 6 Premier League club or one of the giants of European football. But he'd be a very able backup to someone like Harry Kane at Spurs.
Maybe Sevilla if they don't get Andre Silva on a permanent.
That's a very good shout. Sevilla high flying this season as well. He's just got a really good all-round game. He's averaging 3 shots a game in the Champions League. He's also creating 1.5 chances for his teammates, also doing completing a dribble.
That's what's
special
a bit
to his game.
I think. I like the creative ability. I think that's the thing. If you're looking at a club for him to go to, you kind of want him to go somewhere where either they've got great goal-scoring wingers or he's going to play in a 2. So actually, it would be quite interesting. He would have been quite an interesting alternative to Kalinic for Atletico Madrid. Because then you have somebody who facilitates Griezmann. I think that's really where Kramaric has shown himself to be great. But I think he's 27.
27,
now.
yeah.
So if he gets a move after this, it'll probably be his last big one. And to be fair, Hoffenheim are a good side. Hoffenheim are better than a lot of the sides that might offer him a move, I think.
Yeah, really entertaining.
Interesting to see how Hoffenheim fare without Nagelsmann, of course, has agreed to join RB Leipzig next campaign. Some of their star names will probably acknowledge that they overperform because of his methods and may not force a move out of the club, but maybe looking at other options, because Hoffenheim could easily slip back into mid-table mediocrity without someone like Nagelsmann. Who have you opted for then, Pat, in this equation?
I mean, Achraf Hakimi looks like an interesting guy. I mean, and the thing is with Real Madrid, the place where they arguably look deepest on the pitch is right back. I mean, they've already got Carvajal, they've got Odriozola, Nacho can cover there if he really has to, and they've got Achraf Hakimi, who's a Moroccan international and he's out on loan at Borussia Dortmund. And primarily he's played on the left this season. Raf Guerrero's been pushing up, as we saw last night. Actually, this is being filmed on a Thursday. Scored 2 goals against Monaco
in the Champions League, isn't he, Raf Guerrero?
I mean, he's a really good winger and he's a really good box-to-box midfielder. The only problem is he's injured a lot of the time. But Achraf Hakimi has played on the left and just looks fantastic. Really good progressive passer, great dribbler.
Great engine on him as well.
Pretty big guy as well. I think he's got 1.5 key passes a game, which is very solid from fullback. And in about 1,200 minutes, a little under 1,200 minutes across the league and Champions League, he's got 1 goal and 6 assists, which is staggering, really. I mean,
the engine on him.
I mean, he's very fast and he's obviously an intelligent player. So I think that he could even move forward as he gets older. But right now, you imagine that somebody is going to want a decent, versatile fullback in the summer, and Real Madrid unless they plan to bring him back and use him as a backup left back to Marcelo, you'd have thought that good money for him they'd take, given that they've got to rebuild their front line.
And Real Madrid also have Teo Hernandez out on loan as well.
It feels like they don't like it. One season in and then a season out on loan, leaving them with no cover
been
at
following
left
how
back.
well he's been playing.
That seems like not a great sign.
Significantly less minutes than someone like Ceballos as well. Just spells being sold, doesn't it? I'm absolutely shaking like a dog here, really regretting not having, fetching over a jumper or anything like that. Yeah. So I think my weir's just frozen inside my bladder. But I have a couple of names here. Musa Marega wanted to shout out the 27-year-old Porto forward. He's got 5 goals and 1 assist in 5 games this season in the Champions League. So a little bit more of an obscure name, but he has matched that with 5 goals and 2 assists in 10 Liga NOS games as well. So doing it domestically, 26 goal contributions in 29 Liga NOS games in 17-18. So coming into this season on the back of some really good form. Only 2 shots per game in the Champions League. Porto are very efficient, always maybe overachieving in their consistency in which they reach the round of 16, but had a favourable group sort of this year
really
and
nice
last year, didn't they? 1.8 of those shots are from inside the penalty area though, so he's sort of maximising his chances there of getting a decent return, although as you'd expect, massive upturn in the league, almost 4 shots per 90 in the Liga NOS. Nice. And his consistency in the Champions League has been crazy. I think that's 5 games in a row in which he scored, so on separate occasions as well. There's also Alejandro Grimaldo, mentioned him on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. The young Benfica fullback, he's a left back, actually 23-year-old. Actually came from Barcelona's academy. 6 games, 2 goals and 2 goals in the competition in full, but 2 shots and 1 key pass and 1.5 dribbles per game. And that is for a Benfica side who finished 3rd in their group. I believe they were in Bayern Munich's group, weren't they?
Yeah, Bayern
on 14, Ajax on 12 points. I think Benfica got 7. So not bad, and I expect them to make a good fist of it in the Europa League. And I expect Grimaldo's numbers to be supercharged.
He does take set pieces though. That's the one issue.
Does he take corners as well?
I think he does, or from one side. This is my one worry with Grimaldo. When you look at his key pass numbers, I think these are slightly artificially boosted. But nonetheless, he seems like he can really deliver a ball, and it's good to have that weapon, I suppose.
Yeah. And those solid underlying numbers in the Champions League as well, as opposed to just taking his brilliant numbers from Liga NOS. Shout out to Hakim Ziyech as well. He played his socks off last night against Bayern Munich. So what impressed you about
Well,
Ziyech
I just think Ajax full stop have been really impressive this year. In both their games against Bayern Munich, they obviously drew at they drew away and then got a draw at home as well. They've looked excellent this year. And Ziyech's numbers are crazy. I mean, I think he's taking 5 shots a game, 1.8 key passes, 3 dribbles a game. He's only got 1 assist in those games, but no goals so far. But he's been the real creative fulcrum behind what's a really impressive Ajax side. I watched a video highlights package of Frankie de Jong's performance last night as well. And oh my goodness, he looks such a good player as well. And Matthijs de Ligt behind him. They look like a really exciting team, but still second in the Eredivisie, which is slightly surprising. But
I retweeted a video of de
Jong,
like a rocket. And it's just about his match intelligence. It's a really good little 2.5-minute breakdown, but the amount of times that guy will survey his surroundings before he receives the ball.
Such good awareness.
Is incredible, and he's got quite a unique skill set, and he's athletic, also kind of like has this languid playing style, really cultured passer. I actually thought Van der Beek played really well last night against Bayern Munich as well. He provided the assist for Dusan Tadic, who, let's face it, 30 years old, isn't going to get another big move. He's probably playing at the biggest club he could be at during this period of his playing career, the twilight years, maybe from 30 onwards. But what a swan song, if it is that, it's proving to be. 20 100%. Goal involvements in 21 games at the time of recording. And my favourite stat, which I'm gonna reuse from UCL Review, he's scored more goals since leaving Southampton than Southampton have.
That's crazy.
It's absolutely mental. Let's touch upon the Europa League really quickly then. I don't know if you boys have been enjoying the Europa League as much as I have. Celtic, of course, playing tonight against Salzburg, have a chance to go through. And talking of
what do you need to do in that game?
So it depends what Leipzig do against Rosenborg as well, but we pretty much need to win. And our head-to-head isn't favourable with Leipzig because I think they beat us 2-0 at home. We only beat them 2-1. Could have been more than that. Anyway, talking of Salzburg, Munas Dabur, he put us to the sword when we went over to Germany, and he's played really, really well. Joe talks about him on the podcast as a potential Timo Werner replacement, was it?
Yeah, I think so.
For Leipzig, but 5 goals and 1 assist in 5 games in the Europa League, and domestically, he's been crunching it as well. I think his highest goal tally is 29. 4.2 shots a game in this competition, 2.2 key passes, and almost 2 dribbles as well. And he's a specimen. He uses his body really well. He's got the arse of Suarez, when he just fends people off with it. Just a thick boy.
Battering around.
Has anyone got any other shouts on the Europa League? I'm sorry, I've invested interest in it.
Yeah, I've dabbled in the Europa League. I mean, I watch the English highlights. I've watched Arsenal and Chelsea's highlights in most games.
Hudson-Odoi or Ruben
Hudson-Odoi,
yeah, I mean, in the Europa League.
It's been massively important for both those players getting some game time, and particularly Ruben Loftus-Cheek has, really excelled in that competition and put himself in the shop window for a loan move in January. I think he definitely should go out on loan, get some consistent game time for the second half of the year. But he's looked great in the Europa League, playing in a variety of positions. He can be used on the left wing, can be used as more of a 6, can be used as an 8. Just really versatile. And another person to give a shout out to, I think, is Wallace. He's the Lazio centre-back. He's 24 now. He actually missed 16 league games through injury last year, which wasn't great for his confidence whatsoever and his consistency at that level. He's only played for Lazio for 3 years and so missed the majority of last year. But he's come back in and he's been absolutely firing it, particularly in the Europa League. Got his stats down here. He's making 4.6 tackles and interceptions a game and 5.7 completed long balls. And Lazio are a really interesting team to watch, I always think.
That's sort of like
they've got such a well-balanced midfield.
Levels of long ball distribution.
Yeah, I mean, they're solid at the back and they've got such a well-balanced midfield with Marco Parolo, and then Lucas Leiva does an unbelievable amount of defensive work.
Yeah.
Particularly this year, I think he's averaging over 6 tackles and interceptions a game, and then they've got Sergej Milinkovic-Savic adding a bit of creativity.
He's dropped down a lot this season.
Dropped down a bit, yeah.
Who left for AC Milan, who was doing an awful lot of their defensive work and is now doing an awful lot. Yeah, Lucas Obilia. Him and Lucas were just putting in incredible defensive numbers last season. But just to go back to Ziyech for a minute, because I've just recalled it from my grey matter. As soon as the game had finished, a lot of people touting him for a massive move, so he probably answers this question pretty emphatically. What club could you see Ziyech going to and making a good impression, or where is set up? Perhaps maybe you can lead us on this, for Ziyech to go and make a good fist of it.
Well, in the summer, I thought that after Liverpool failed to get in Fekir, I think that Ziyech would have been the best option for them to go for afterwards. Huge creative numbers. I mean, last couple of seasons in the Eredivisie, he's led the league in shots and key passes and been in the top 3 for dribbles. That's unbelievable. And he also has pretty solid defensive numbers. Usually around 3 to 4 tackles and interceptions per game, which is very good.
Jesus.
So in that kind of 3-8 role that we're seeing more and more, so for instance, the role that James Rodriguez played last season at Bayern Munich, the role we see Eriksen play, the role that the Ox played last season at Liverpool, I think that actually Ziyech would fit quite well into that. So Spurs, for instance, if they were to lose Eriksen, Ziyech wouldn't be the worst replacement. Comes straight in, immediate creativity, can also dribble, and if you can coach the ridiculous shot locations out of him, which I'm sure you can because he's clearly an intelligent player, then I think you would get a really good return on your investment. But I mean, 2 to 3 years ago, clubs like Southampton and Swansea had chances to sign him for a real knockdown fee. He was going for it. He had a 12 million release clause, I think, and he almost went to Swansea, and I can't remember who they decided to get instead. But in the end, he went to Ajax.
Thanking his lucky stars that didn't happen, wasn't it?
Well, it ended up with just kind of for a month or so, it looked like he was going nowhere, and eventually Ajax said, "Well, we'll take him," and he's obviously been their best player for the last couple of seasons.
Didn't Twente sign Ziyech as a replacement for Tadic? And now they're both at Ajax.
I think he was at Groningen maybe before that, but yeah, now I think he's definitely somebody who, if you need a guy who's going to get on the ball a lot and create for you, if you need a 10 essentially, but who has the defensive output of a midfielder, Ziyech is your guy.
He's got quite an interesting backstory as well. He was a Netherlands under-21 international, and then just after that, so when he was through and couldn't play for them anymore, he wasn't showing enough, so according to Marco van Basten, wasn't showing enough patience and was so keen to get his try. But he's actually now playing for Morocco, obviously, which is the country of his father, I think. But yeah, could have definitely represented both, and what a great addition he'd be to the Netherlands team at the moment. But yeah, I think where he could go, I think someone like Inter Milan would be a great addition. A bit more goals from midfield, a bit more creativity.
Some genuine width, speed, creativity.
Exactly, and can play across a variety of positions as well. So yeah, I'd give a shout out to Inter Milan maybe for Ziyech.
Interesting. And just to touch upon the Champions League again then, before we move into our quick fire questions, what has been everyone's favourite game of this campaign? In the Champions League or Europa League? You know, so
I enjoyed Liverpool hosting PSG. That was quite a fun game, and they played really well in that game when they won. I also thought Barcelona battering Spurs at Wembley was a pretty impressive performance as well. I don't know how Spurs managed to get out of that with 4-2. It should have been way more. And there's some really high quality goals in that. That Rakitic volley, Messi just pulling the strings.
Shocking defending as well, which is always a recipe for fun.
I really enjoyed the two legs between Dortmund and Atletico Madrid. So the 4-0, which was Diego Simeone's biggest ever defeat in Europe. I think maybe the first or around that, by a 4-goal margin as well. Obviously the other biggest defeat being 4-1 in the final. And then the return leg was sort of like redemption, and you could see how much Simeone and the players wanted it.
They're so dominant.
It was 2-0, and it could have easily been more. I think expected goals probably had it closer to around 3. So they, for me, as well as the games you mentioned, stick out. Anything to add to the pantheon of great games this time round?
I wish I'd seen both Bayern and Ajax games, like having seen the highlights of the first and some of the highlights of the second. They look absolutely ridiculous, and there's something about this Ajax side that, I mean, I think obviously they're extremely talented, but also there's something about the combination of them and Bayern Munich which seems to make for really fun games. It was like, 2 years ago when Man City Monaco played each other, and I thought, I want to watch these two teams play each other again every week for the rest of the year.
I felt like that after Spurs Juventus last season. The two legs, that almost not rekindled my interest in the Champions League, but I was like, it's when I had a moment where I just really appreciate the beauty of the competition.
One more I'd like to
give a shout out to. Any Europa League games?
No, not so much the Europa League game, but I haven't watched the highlights of Real Madrid getting battered 3-0 at home by CSKA last night.
It's not great.
And I just love to see that from, their meltdown continues. I think it'll be a great watch.
Well, on UCL Review this morning, we established they didn't have a shot after the 50-minute mark, was it?
After the 37-minute mark, really? They had one shot on target for the rest of the game.
That is just a shocking result, to lose 3-0 at home to CSKA.
Well, they've lost home and away to CSKA now.
Yeah.
And CSKA still have gone out.
Everton loanee Nikola Vlasic tearing through Real Madrid. Unbelievable.
Best game you've been to this season? I mean, I would have to say Celtic versus RB Leipzig. Incredible atmosphere. Sunderland obviously haven't been to many. Haven't had a lot of European campaigns of late, have they?
No, the best game I've been to.
You went to the Tottenham game, right?
I did, yeah. I went to Spurs into Milan, which wasn't a great game to be honest. But Spurs got that, last 10 minutes. Ericsson scored a great goal, really well worked by Moussa Sissoko, then Ali. That was an entertaining game, but Inter Milan didn't really offer anything. It was pretty one-sided.
It's very odd that they've been blowing very hot and cold recently, aren't they? So I thought they were extremely lucky against Juventus not to get something from that when they lost 1-0. Then against PSV. Didn't really threaten for the whole game. Bizarre. I mean, lo and behold, Icardi pops up. But have you catch any live football this season, Van Straat?
I've gone to one or two Arsenal games, but to be honest, it's I don't know. I don't particularly like going to the games in the stadium. I'm not that interested.
You did Arsenal Sporting.
Just have your pint of Bovril at home by yourself, yeah.
God, how did we not win that game, mate? It was like outrageously dominant.
All the games to pick, unfortunately.
But I don't know. Yeah, maybe it'd be nice to go to one of the. I might try and go to a PSG game after Christmas. That would be quite fun. I'd like to see Mbappe play. Just want to see him run past people.
In the flesh, the gazelle. Anyway, can you all put good luck Celtic in the comments below, because they're playing tonight and I'm super nervous about it. Thank you. Jesus. First quickfire question comes from Josh Williams. The lads haven't seen these. Actually, Dougie has. He pulled them together. So, who do you feel will go the furthest in the Champions League? Brackets, English clubs. Close parenthesis, question mark. Can there be an English winner for the first time in a while? Also, who do you think is the most feared team in the Champions League currently? Keep up the good work, lads. I was going to say, Josh, there's nothing quick about that, but he ended it quite nicely. So, Dude, kicking us off. So, can an English club win the Champions League? And who is the most feared club in the competition?
Yes, most definitely to the first one. I definitely think the English clubs have actually got quite a good shout this year, particularly Liverpool and Man City. I actually, at the end of the stream, said Liverpool can go the furthest, but I actually retract that now because I've had a think about it. And Man City can completely change their 11 and still comfortably win most Premier League games, if not all of them. Whereas Liverpool don't quite have that ability. So that squad depth, I know they've got quite a few injuries at the moment with David Silva and De Bruyne, but that squad depth is unrivaled. So they've got such an opportunity to keep their players fresh for the Champions League.
That close, isn't it? I'd be like, I'd definitely think twice if someone said, who would you prefer to face over two legs? Liverpool's strongest 11 or Manchester City's strongest 11? But then injuries included, if something happens to us, Salah, Firmino, Sane, they become a less daunting proposition.
They're also quite worryingly thin at centre-back now.
Yeah.
Centre-back now.
Kick save.
Lovren and Van Dijk are their only two centre-backs, I believe, at the moment, because Gomez has got a broken leg and Matty fractured his collarbone on Tuesday.
How do you know about
an
that?
Injury to Van Dijk. It came up this morning. Injury to Van Dijk, and all things slightly fall apart in that position. So maybe look at another centre back in January, just a temporary one.
It's interesting. Glad we play them for the second time before January.
Yeah, that's the English clubs done. Who's the most feared club in the Champions League, Van Stross?
I don't know if you can leave the English clubs if you're going to talk about the most feared club, because I think, whilst I think Man City are better than Liverpool in every department and have been quite clearly so far this season, I kind of fear Liverpool more just because of the nature of that front three. They're so relentless. Whereas Man City, the way that Pep wants to play, and City haven't actually done this that much, but what Pep wants to do is get a clear lead, get a couple of goals lead, and then he's happy to just keep the ball away from you for the rest of the match. Whereas Liverpool don't really know how to conserve energy. Like, they will just keep trying to rip through you for the rest of the game. So we saw this against Napoli, when what they really needed to do was sit deep and stop Napoli getting a chance. And instead, they just ripped through them again and again and again. And they could have won that game 4-0. Well, not when you need them just not to score a goal. Like, I mean, then it's no flawless defence at all.
But then at the same time, if they'd won 3-0, there was no way Napoli could have gone through. And they had the chances to...
Sure, but in the last 5 minutes, when you're 1-0 up, you're pretty certain you're not going to lose 3-0.
Yeah, they do slightly scare me.
Did you see expected goals for that game? It was like 3.6 to 0.6.
Really?
And they narrowly beat them 1-0. Sadio Mane was shocking in that game.
I don't know if I'd call that shocking. Like, I think that's just like what happens when you go away to Anfield.
Open.
Like, going away to... Yeah, but they had to be. They had to score. Like, I mean, this is the thing.
Not being beaten in 14 games, though.
Game states matter. Like, going away to Liverpool and needing a goal is a horrible position for anyone to be in.
Because you have to be open to a certain extent, don't you? And this is one side that's adept at absolutely carving through that.
They'll still always give you an opportunity, though. They've still that moment at the end.
They could have easily gone out.
Yeah, but now they've got Alisson Becker, who saved 80% of the shots he faced in the area. Although I think not the magnitude, but the actual skill involved in that save was probably a bit overblown in the fallout from the game.
Big, though.
Let's move on to St Mirren Shiny's question. Is this the strongest Premier League? Is this the strongest the Premier League has been since its birth?
So you're slightly older than me. What do you think?
Certainly got to be up there. I mean, we used to have maybe probably four good sides. Like, I'd say probably around 04, 05, you had a Liverpool that were about to win the Champions League. You had Jose Mourinho's first Chelsea side. You had an Arsenal side that had just been invincible, and you had Man United. And in addition to that, you had a bunch of teams around the league who were great kind of spoilers. You know, like there were Allardyce's Bolton and things like that. Yeah, and Moyes' Everton. These were difficult teams to play. However, the depth in the league, both in terms of talent and managerial talent, is by far the best.
The latter's the most telling, isn't it?
Every club, pretty much, with the exception of maybe two, has a player who can really hurt you.
We've seen a massive stylistic shift from the birth to now. Do you know, in the opening weekend of the birth, this is in my Brexit video, of the Premier League, the birth? Why do I keep saying birth? Let's stop that. There was only 13 foreign players down to play in the opening 11 fixtures when there was 22 teams. And now the league is comprised of 67% foreign players. I mean, that in itself tells a story, but
I do also think
the variety of styles now.
Yeah, I think there's a counter argument to that English players not getting opportunity, because I sort of think that the English players that rise to the top of the top 6 clubs, they are of a standard now which is truly, truly world class. And I actually think it helps English players. I know they need more opportunities younger, but when they are getting consistent opportunities amongst these world class players in these pretty world-class teams at the top of English football at the moment, then there's good things to come from the England national team.
It's dependent on manager as well as talent pools. Pochettino sort of defies all that logic, doesn't he, in terms of the talent he's brought through and the effect he's had on the English game, effectively providing the national team with a core of players from Tottenham. But that's a totally separate argument, isn't it? But I think the Premier League is as strong now as it's ever been, and as varied and as interesting.
The only other period that I think was potentially better was in that period when Man United won 3 in a row, and Chelsea had a very good side then as well. Liverpool, that was when they had Torres, Mascherano, Gerrard, Alonso. That was a very good side as well. And Arsenal actually had quite a good side back then as well. That was potentially a rivalling period, and that Man United team could have taken anyone on. As they did in that European Cup win, and then reaching the final the next year. So that was potentially the only other time. But in terms of, I agree with Pato and Chris, in terms of depth of quality throughout the league, it's pretty much unrivaled.
Average Premier League club at the moment averaging £260 million worth of revenue.
Really?
Much more than the Bundesliga, which is second. So it's just all the talent that's being hoovered up, and we'll see what sort of effect Brexit has. And if you want to check that out, then please go and do so on Eurofootball Daily afterwards. Anyway, next question. Yas Raj Singh has asked, who's the best goalkeeper in the Premier League on current form? Pato?
Well, Alisson. I mean, De Gea is definitely up there as well. De Gea, it's a bit of a myth that De Gea hasn't a good start to the season. I think he's been excellent, bar a couple of high-profile mistakes, but you always get those as a keeper, and Alisson has them as well. But he's been great. He's been exactly what they hoped he'd be. Oh, actually, you know who's gone really unnoticed? Like, no one seems to pay attention to how great he is? Ederson. Why does nobody notice how good Ederson is? And his shot stopping has actually got better this season relative to last season. He's still amazing with his feet. Like, no one talks about him because he just never really makes a big costly mistake.
He's given away a couple of penalties.
Yeah, but I think that's partially like what happens when players go through. Like, there's a limit to how much I expect keepers to be able to kind of take players out when they come through. But he does everything else I want from a keeper. I think he's fantastic, and he's 24, I think. Edison's such. Yeah, it's really underrated how good a keeper he is. It already feels like old news that Ederson is here because now the world record fee for a goalkeeper is more than twice what City paid for him. But I think he's been sensational.
Yeah. It's kind of inevitable that you'll give away a couple of penalties with a high line and a lot of space behind you. And most goals that Man City concede are either off set pieces or breakaway counter-attacks. So it's kind of inevitable that they'll give away a few penalties. I don't really have anything
fine
else
from open play so far, I think.
Really?
Before the last match day, at least.
Their save percentage is like 86% at the moment, which, if it persisted for the rest of the season, would be 6% above the highest ever. Liverpool is around the same. So, I mean, obviously that's not going to continue, but Ederson has been remarkable.
It's interesting that Tite starts Alisson ahead of Ederson.
Yeah.
I mean,
but Tite does some weird stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, but the way that Brazil select players always seems to be a little bit like, these are the guys we like and these are the guys we don't like.
There's like the in
and
crowd
there's
and
not
the out
necessarily
crowd,
any kind of like rationale to how that works.
I think that's been less so under Tio. There's been a focus once again on domestic players as well, which they used to kind of champion 30, 40 years ago. So I think there's been a bit of a shift there.
I don't know. I mean, he was still playing Renato Augusto over, say, Alan.
And Paulinho
which is
in
remarkable.
midfield, and I mean they're the guys that
strange
navigated them through qualification, but he knew Paulinho from his time at Corinthians. Anyway, best goalkeeper, Doug, quick.
It's difficult to argue with Alisson on current form in the Premier League.
Okay, cool. Alisson it is. Next one comes from Mikey Boy.
Mikey.
That's a lot of O's. I'm not just overly enthusiastic about this question. Who do you think will be the biggest spenders in the January transfer window? Good question, Mike. I like it.
It's got to be Real Madrid for me. I'm not sure whether they'll go like supernova. I don't know whether they'll bring in a plus £100 million player, but they should. And they're in real danger of missing out on the Champions League next year, which for the three-time consecutive winners is a horrible position to be in, let alone even challenge for the title. So yeah, I think it'll be Real Madrid by a distance.
Yeah, if not them, then it'll probably be an Italian club. There always seems to be more business done in Italy in January than anywhere else on the continent. But I mean, I think Arsenal will probably buy a centre-back and they might even go in for a left-back. I think United will probably buy a defender. So
yeah, finally.
And maybe Liverpool, actually, if they need another centre-back too, then they might think there's no point shelling out a small fee for an okay centre-back when we could spend a big fee on a great centre-back. So who knows, maybe they'll go out and spend another 40, 50 mil.
I think it'd be really interesting to see what happens in the Bundesliga as well. If Bayern, regain a bit of ground over the winter months, I guess, on Dortmund. I think they're currently behind by 9 points or 7 points. I think it might be the former, actually. And if they're still in Europe, if they're entrusting Kovac to see out the season and to carry on as Bayern manager, whether they'll aid him in his sort of bid to overturn Dortmund's lead in January, because that squad, like we've said before, has needed overhauling for 2 or 3 years now. They've got the highest average age of the top teams in the Bundesliga. Robben and Ribéry need replacing, don't they? And I just wonder whether they'll move for any targets just to kind of speed up that process, because I think it's inevitable they're going to spend a lot in the summer. But just whether they want to bed in a couple of players, sort of a la City with Laporte, before that happens. Maybe with one eye on next year then.
There's also something that might help these top clubs is that there's a new rule where you can buy someone else's player if they've played in the Champions League already. So they used to be cut tied for the Champions League. That's now been eradicated. So it might improve top clubs going for other top talent. But it could potentially be quite an interesting January window. There's only really Liga and Serie A that are pretty much sewn up. The Bundesliga, you expect Dortmund's hot run of form to slightly go down, and then the Premier League and La Liga sort of up for grabs more or less. So it'll be interesting.
All right, last one then before we move on to personal questions. Have we got some of them? Yes, we have. It comes from @Raga Ryan. And he's asked, should Spain make a move for Aymeric Laporte to get him on their national team ahead of France to replace Piqué? Would he be a good fit for their current system? I think Spain did make a move for him, and he rejected Spain because he wants to play for the country of his birth. Obviously qualified for Bilbao under his ancestry on his paternal side, I believe, because they've got quite stringent recruitment policies, haven't they? But he still very much, I think, regards himself as French. But it is crazy that he's not been captain. We've spoken about this before, haven't we? That he's probably the most on-form defender in the world right now. I mean, they do have Varane, they have Umtiti. He should be in the squad ahead of Kimpembe, in my opinion. But yeah, I think we're probably all in agreement that he should be playing for France, yeah? Let's
100%.
Let's move on. Personal questions.
Here we go.
Right, this one's from Mikey Boy as well. Well done, mate, quality. Quality and quantity with these submissions. Who are your favourite film series?
What?
So maybe...
as in multiple films that's...
So like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter.
Oh, I see.
A collection of films. The Bourne films. What are the great... James Bond. That's a pretty big series, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm a big James Bond fan, I was just about to say. And then
which Bond are you, though? Because you strike me as a very Sean Connery kind of guy.
Maybe Timothy Dalton.
Timothy Dalton?
Someone quite irrelevant.
You raging Tory. What is Timothy Dalton?
Timothy Dalton? I don't particularly like him. I was just making a joke about irrelevant. No, Sean Connery. I'd like to be Sean Connery, except for his approach to women.
Yeah. It's not aged well.
Less said about him, the better. But Daniel Craig's a pretty cool guy. I still imagine when I close my eyes and think of Bond, I instantly see Pierce Brosnan. Though it will never be Daniel Craig for me.
Daniel Craig's undisputedly a better actor, but Pierce Brosnan's just like when you thought Bond was the coolest, it was Pierce was at the helm. What about you? Favourite series? Or Bond? I think we spoke about Bond before, actually.
The Dollars, Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy is incredible. A Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more. And The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. I mean, the music is incredible. It's great. I mean, The Godfather, though The Godfather Part 3 is not tremendous, but 1 and 2 are so good, it kind of doesn't matter. I don't know. I mean, a lot of them are just terrible. Or overrated, like Nolan's Batman movies are pretty overrated. They're fine.
I really enjoyed
Begins
Batman Begins. I thought the first one was the best one by far.
Really, I think The Dark Knight. I thought The Dark Knight was a lot better. I really like The Dark Knight, but it's just when people think it's like one of the best films ever, I'm like, maybe watch some other films. It's not all that.
Trilogies. Can we think of any of us before we move on then? Trilogies.
Toy Story.
Quintet's Toy Story. That's a great
The
show.
Three Colours series is pretty incredible. 3 colours, red, blue, white.
The Incredibles.
Great sequels.
What about animated series then?
What has been made animated?
Land Before Time.
There's a new Lion King coming out, which looks excellent, but it's not anime. I
thought Jon Favreau's Jungle Book, the live action one, was incredible.
I
thought they did that really, really well. And do you know that the kid was never higher than 15 centimetres off the ground throughout filming?
What do you mean? Never higher?
Yeah, so all the CGI of him jumping through trees and doing all these tricks, he was never higher off the ground.
It's crazy what you can do, had a good cast as well. So Scarlett Johansson was the snake. And then I think Ben Kingsley was someone as well. It was good. It was good. Well worth watching if you haven't already checked it out.
I think I'd have to opt for Godfather to answer that question. What's your favourite Christmas film though?
I'm a big sucker for Love Actually.
Oh, God.
I know, I can't help it. Every year, straight on.
What was that? On the old tape player?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's quite backward up in
Christmas film?
It's a bit
Wonderful
tired.
Life?
It's a bit tired now for people to say Die Hard, but Die Hard is a good Christmas movie.
Is that a Christmas film?
Yeah. But it takes place at the office Christmas party. Like,
I haven't seen it.
But actually, I think we talked about this before, and any Shane Black movie, like The Long Kiss Goodnight, Last Boy Scout, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, like all these movies are.
You've seen so many films I haven't seen.
Christmas movies, and they're all fantastic.
I quite like the other guys as well.
Yeah, I like the other guys.
Shane Black's
It's also
latest
Christmas.
wares.
The other guys, is that with...
Russell Crowe.
Oh, right, no, I was thinking
Ryan
of...
Gosling.
I was thinking the one with Will Ferrell. And what's that called?
The other guys.
That's the other guys.
This is the nice guys.
The nice guys.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said the other
Did I
guys.
say the other guys? I might have. Anyway, moving on to Has Kareem's question. If you could go back in time to change one thing in sport, what would it be?
In sport,
Yes.
Ooh. Change one thing in sport. I'd like to dob Lance Armstrong in. Although
it's an interesting one.
everyone was pretty convinced he was cheating anyway, but I'd just like to make it blatantly obvious. I'd like to bust him. Not because he didn't do great things for cancer, but just how he built his whole reputation on the back of a lie. I'd like to take him down.
Yeah, though I kind of feel like that was true of everyone at the time.
Yeah, most people were
Who's in
cheating.
cycling?
Everyone
Have
was
you watched
doping
the
at the time.
documentary Icarus?
I haven't yet. That's on my to-do
Get
list.
on to that, my friend. Explosive stuff.
What else has been worth changing?
Yeah, that's the thing. Most sport isn't significant enough.
It doesn't matter enough, exactly.
Yeah.
Sport. What are some really undeserved? Chelsea winning the Champions League?
That was quite an epic way they won it, though.
It'd be good to take that away from them. That'd
Yeah.
be really enjoyable.
As a club, don't deserve it.
Yeah.
You'd surely go back to the
Istanbul would be great.
2006 Champions League
ruin
final,
Istanbul
Pastor. You
would
must
be
want to go
super
back to
fun.
that.
Yeah. I mean that would be great, but it's like it's obvious, isn't
How
it?
would you stop the result in Istanbul?
I'd go up to Steven Gerrard during half time and I'd be like,
Kneecap
have a
him.
really good second half, mate, and then I'd just kick him in the kneecap.
I'd
Run away, break his leg.
Stop Didi Hamann coming on.
God.
He was quite crucial.
He was very influential second half when he came on. Okay, last question. I'm not going to go for Waluigi's question. What is your biggest personal regret from the last 5 years? That's pretty deep for the end of a Sunday
Very
Vibes,
deep,
mate.
Waluigi.
I'm going for Julius's question. Favourite fast food restaurant has to be fast food, and then we're out of here, gentlemen. We out.
No one else ever really agrees with me, but I actually always enjoy it when I go to Pizza Hut. I love a sit-in meal at Pizza Hut and the all-you-can-eat menu.
meal.
The other day,
I love the salad
Zach
bar.
brought a pizza into the office, and Doogie asked to look at it before he ate it.
Yeah, so can I just have a look at
Pizza
it?
pervert.
It's just
over
great
here.
to be around it.
Hashtag pizza pervert
Like it
in the
was a
comments.
nude that Zach had.
Have a
He
look
was like,
at
can I
it.
have a look?
Have a smell.
Don't do that with your shoulders when
I
you're
can't
talking about
help it.
smelling pizza.
Love
Absolute
pizza.
feeder.
Yeah,
What about
Pizza Hut,
you?
love it.
Gross. I like Five Guys. And obviously KFC, reliable, enjoyable.
Byron Burger's good as well.
I don't know. KFC, sometimes when I'm eating the chicken, I can smell cat food. And that really puts me off.
That
not-
must be
not
like a
unreasonable
stroke
point.
thing.
Absolutely fine.
No, that's it. I can kind of see that.
Yeah, I really like Honest Burger. Oh, my lips are really dry.
Honest Burger, I always think the chips are just overly salted. Just
And
too
the
much.
problem with
are.
Honest Burger as
Prune
well is
you out.
remember what it was. When there was just one Honest Burger in London and it was amazing. No, there were two rather. There was one in Brixton, there was one in Soho. And then it was actually amazing. And it was like, not gourmet, like not but just a really good burger. And since then, since it's kind of grown into a chain, the quality has gone down
Lost
a
its
lot,
essence.
I think.
Shout out to Fish Wings and Things in Brixton because the jerk chicken there is incredible.
And
It's
Chicken
become a little
World.
branch. Do you know what?
Only jerkin
Chipotle
is good.
I love Chipotle. When I went to New York, I just smashed a Chipotle every day.
Yeah,
I mean,
Chipotle
I
here
put on,
is
I
Chipotle.
put on about 6 kg, but
Yeah, that's not for me.
Mexican.
Chipotle. Yeah. I do, yeah, shout out
Does that
to
not get
Chicken
your
World
shoulders
as well.
going, Chipotle?
No shoulder movement on that, but Chicken
Shake
World
Shack
definitely
is
does.
good as well.
Shout out to the girl as well who covered my mate in chili sauce in Chicken World last Saturday. What a
Favorite chicken shop?
Oh my God.
Chicken World.
Chicken World, yeah?
Gotta stay loyal to my lads.
There was a chicken shop in Leicester that gained cool status called Maryland. There's actually a rap about it, and like you could. What I liked about it is you could customise your order with minimal effort. They wouldn't be like, "What are you talking about?" You'd be like, "Can I swap my chips out for an extra 2 strips?" And they'd be like, "Of course,
no worries.
Of course you can."
Nothing was too much trouble.
Nah, customer service there incredible. But you know, a video did come out where sort of there was like worms and stuff coming out out of the chicken. You know, a branch that I won't mention for legal reasons. Anyway, that's it. We're going to end on worms coming out of food. So that's Sunday Vibes for this week, guys. Get your questions in for next week on these Twitter handles. Go to our Instagram, drop a question there as well. We're always checking that out. And go and check FDFCs out. FDFCs? Or the plural FDFCs. Go and check Sevens out on there. And a new non-league vlog went live.
And Personal Masterminds as well.
I think maybe today as well. I'm getting a nod from James behind the camera. Saturday or Sunday, but go and check it out. Anything else on Eurofootball Daily, boys?
Go check out Stat Wars, the league. It's nearly wrapped up. It's getting pretty exciting at both ends of the table, so go check that one out.
What do you want for Christmas, Pat?
Probably just a long holiday. It's a long break.
He's had enough.
Bye.